Hello everybody, today we are going to be covering partition. We'll go and go over what the rule set for this one is real quick. It's pretty, not similar to wall, but it's related, so maybe watching that video, or at least recalling what the wall rule set is, might help. But the way this one works is each clue indicates the number of consecutive groups of mines in the neighboring 8 cells. So for instance, you can see this 2 clue here has 2 groups of mines, one up there, one down there. Same for the 3 clue where it has 3 groups, and this 1 clue has 1 big group. And we'll go ahead and just get into this variant real quick. So first of all, something we can kind of notice here is that since there is 1 mine around this 1 clue, we know it has to be filled in. That's the only way to make a group. Additionally, we can now see that we actually already have our group completed for this partition. This is like this clue right here with 1 partition in it, so we can know neither of these can be mines. If they were, it would form 2 groups. Similarly, we can actually see that there will always be at least 1 mine in this kind of region here. What that tells us with this 1 clue is that there can't be a mine over here. If there were, then we would have 2 groups. So we can go ahead and mark that real quick. A 0 clue works the same way you'd expect it to, where it just does not have any mines in it. What else we can kind of notice here, first of all, from this 1 clue, there must be 1 mine up here. And that tells us, through the same style of deduction, that there cannot be a mine over here. It also tells us for this 2 clue, we know that there can only be 1 group over here, right? Like, there isn't a way to fit 2 in this area, so that tells us that the second group must be over here. We can actually also get that from this 2 clue, which has just only 2 disjoint mines, so that also gives us this information. Additionally, what we can kind of gather now is since we know there must be a mine down here, we can consider some of the possibilities. If this one, for instance, weren't a mine, then we still know there must be a mine here for this 1 clue. That makes this 1 clue now a 2 clue. So we can kind of see that we have to loop it around through this group of mines, at least hitting this one. The next thing we can kind of consider is maybe it would be worth it to look into this 2 clue now. Yes. So we can kind of see through a similar style of logic that if we don't have this mine, or rather this cell as a mine, we have 3 groups of mines right around this 2 clue. So we know this must be a mine, and then this one must be a mine, just using the same logic that we already showed for this 1 group right here, right? And so now then we can kind of consider this 3 clue. We know that the remaining 2 groups of mines must be somewhere within these cells, right? What this more specifically tells us is that it must be able to be it must be in this like grouping right here, where there's at least 1 mine in here and at least 1 mine in here. We can kind of just see that because if, for instance, there weren't any mines here, then we would only have 2 possible groups. And we know these regions can't really overlap, because if they do, then all of a sudden, like for instance, if we have something like this, we actually don't have room to fit a 3rd group. So we can gather this piece of information right here. Right. And this kind of follows with what we already knew about this 2 clue. We already knew there had to be at least 1 mine in this region, just from this. What I'm now considering, though, is what happens if we put like a mine right here. Then we know there must be a mine here, so we can mark off both this and this. But then we've kind of run into a problem where, since we know that these groups must be separate, we know there cannot be a mine there, it must be a mine here. But now we have 3 groups around this too, which is not allowed. So we can go ahead and mark that as a non-mine. And now that we have done that, I'll just get rid of this stuff. It's not super necessary. We now know that this 1 clue is finished. It already has its group, so we can mark that. This 2 clue needs a group down here. This 2 clue needs another group right there. Similarly, this 2 clue needs a group there. And we can see that the only way to fit a 3rd group around this 3 is to put a mine there. No mines on either of these. Same kind of reasoning can show us that that mine must be up there, none on either side. And now you can see we have 4 mines left, 4 squares open. We are done. So that's kind of how partition works. We'll now go ahead and go into a harder one. You can see partition is one of the variants I've done a little bit more on in the harder difficulties. So here we go. Okay. So I guess one thing that we can first think about is what happens if we have a mine up here. First of all, then, we know that none of these 2 are mines. And what this also tells us now is that there must be a mine down here, no mine over there, and at least 1 mine in this group right here, right? I'm not sure if that gives us a lot on its own. And of course, if we instead assume there's a mine here, we know there can't be a mine there, must be a mine there, must also be a mine here. I wonder if this one kind of runs into any problems. Well, we can see in this case that, first of all, we know by this 2, these are 2 disjoint groups, so there could not be any mines there. In order to finish up this 2, there must be a mine up here and no mine critically up here. I think this can show us then that since we've kind of covered the 2 possibilities for this 3 clue, right, we can't have no mines up here because then we only have 2 groups possible, and we can't have 2 because that violates this 1. We have shown that in both of these cases there is not a mine up here. There we go. Alright. Something else we can now see is that the red case is no longer valid. That breaks this 1, so we can go ahead and just continue with the yellow case instead. There we are. I'll go ahead and get rid of this real quick. This 1's now finished, as is this 2. This 2 is also finished, so is that 2. Something else now we can consider is this 3. We know that there will always be a mine in one of these 2 cells, right? Yeah. So I guess we can consider what happens if it's in different positions. First of all, if there's a mine over here, actually, I'll specify this one, we're going to assume there isn't a mine in this square. Then we know that there are no mines in any of these, this one just from the 3 and the rest of these from the 1. So there are not mines in either of these, and you can see we've kind of run into a problem where we actually don't have enough cells left to fit our remaining 9 mines. So we know there must be a mine here, at least. One thing we can actually kind of look at is how many cells are even are left. There's 1, 2, I won't mark all of them, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so that means we can at most not use 2 cells, right? However, if we mark this one as a non-mine, then we know neither of these 2 are used, so we have 3 unused cells of the remaining ones. Thus, this must be a mine, this cannot be a mine. By this 1, this also cannot be a mine, and you can now see we only have 7 cells left, and we have 7 mines left, so there we are. We're good on that front now. We will now go ahead and move on to some combinations. We can actually probably go through a decent amount of them, just based on the amount of time I've been recording. These do not take me as long. So here we go. Okay. So first of all, by quad logic, 1 clues still operate the same way, where we know there must be a mine up here. That tells us there's not a mine here by the 1. Then we know there must be a mine here to fill this 2x2. What we also now know is that there must be 1 mine at least in this region, 1 mine at least in this region. We also know there must be at least 1 mine here, and here, and here. Looks like we have a bit of information about this whole situation. Okay. So let's think about what happens if we start doing some specifics on these. First of all, what happens if we just assume there is no mine here? Now we know both of these must be mines. This one cannot be a mine. To finish this 3, both of these must be mines. That can't be a mine. And then we also know that since there is a 4x4 grid here that needs mines, and we also know this group needs a mine, we can see that. I'll just get rid of this real quick. You can see that this cell must be a mine. Yeah, so there we go. Trying to see if there's any other logic we can make from this. Yes, we also know that this one cannot be a mine. If it is, then the only way to fit 2 more mines, or rather 2 more groups on this 3, is to do something like this, but you can see we've overloaded the 2. So we can see that this one is not a mine, neither is this then. And now then, what else can we potentially see here? Well, we know that this one can't not be a mine, because then we have a mine up here to make 3 groups, and that breaks the 2. So this one must be a mine, this one must be a mine, this one cannot be a mine. And I think that's most of the information we'll probably gather from this case. So now let's instead consider what happens if maybe this one up here is not a mine. Then we know both of these are mines, this one is not a mine. And now we can kind of see that this whole group must be mines because there's a 2x2 square here and here. The only way to get those in one group is to include the entire corner. Then the only other way we can make a new group of mines is to put it down here for this 3. Then we kind of get the same structure we've looked at before. Additionally, we also know there must be a mine up here to finish up this 2. There cannot be a mine here. And from there, I don't necessarily know if we know anything else. Like, we know there must be a red mine in one of these 2 squares, but I don't actually think the specific one matters. So now we can lastly consider the blue case, where there is no mine there. This actually tells us exactly what the 3 must be, which is just this kind of structure. And I think here we've actually run into a bit of a contradiction. Yeah, we have, where for blue, this overloads the 2 with just some of the assumptions we have to make this 3 work. So we know there must be one up there, nothing over there. And we also know that none of these can be mines, and that these 3 must be mines. So there we go. And we'll go ahead and erase some of these marks. I'll keep the blue ones up, I think, because, or not the blue ones, I'll keep the red and yellow ones up for some of these cells, just because I think it's important information to still be considering that we kind of have this breakdown into 2 cases. Okay. So now we can kind of see that for this 2 clue down here, we know this one cannot be a mine. That finishes up that 2. And okay. I think it might now just come down to trying to figure out like how many mines we can fit into each of these given our remaining ones left, right? So in the yellow case we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 possible mine locations, so it would actually have to be the case that all of these must be filled. That just tells us generally that both of these are mines, like such. There we go. And now then, for the red case, we need to put mines. We need 4 more mines, so we'd have to put 1, 2, 3, 4 to fill out all the remaining squares, but that breaks the 3. So we can then conclude that yellow must be the case. So there we are. Cool. That is a partition quad done. We'll now move on to connected. There we go. Okay. So first of all, let's see. I'm trying to find a good place to start this puzzle. Maybe we can consider what happens if there's a mine here. Then we know that the mine must extend out this way. If it doesn't and goes diagonally, then it breaks the 1 clue. So we know it must go like this. This tells us there is no mine over there because we've already put 1 down for the 1 here. And then I'm not completely sure if this actually really leads us to anything, at least for this 2, right? Yeah, because in order to really get anything else now, we can see that one of these 2 up here must be a mine in order to finish the partition clue. But otherwise, I don't know if we get a lot out of this. Okay. Maybe instead it'd be better to consider just what happens if that one's a mine. Yes, okay. Yeah, if that one's a mine, then we know none of these are a mine because of this 1 clue. But now we've kind of run into an issue with this 1 clue, right? We need to put a mine around it such that it can connect with the other ones. It can't be down there, because that would just be trapped, so we could fill in both of those. So it has to be here. But the only way for it to move out is to go this way, which breaks this 1. Thus we know that one cannot be a mine. Okay. I guess the next thing we can kind of try to consider is if this one here is a mine. It looks like it might run into a similar style of problem, where we know none of those are mines. To finish up this 2 partition clue, both of these must be mines, so there we go. And in order for this mine to connect up to the rest of them, it has to go diagonally through here. Runs into a problem with that 1 clue, so there we go. Now we have a 0 clue, that one's just finished, so is that. This 2 clue is finished, and in order for this mine to go ahead and connect with the remaining 12 we had to place somewhere, we know it has to first go this direction and then kind of upwards like this. And we know it has to go upwards here again, because if this one isn't a mine, then it has to go diagonally out, and that breaks this 1 clue. Next we know that... I guess now we can kind of consider how many cells are remaining. Because there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's only 10 left. I miscounted. This is 7, 8, 9, 10. And we know that one of the non-mines must be in this region, specifically in one of these 2 cells, right, for this 2. So then we know that all of these are mines. But now, in order to finish up this 1 clue, this also has to be a mine finishing the puzzle. So there we go. I guess next we'll go and do partition snake since I haven't. Afterwards maybe we'll go back and do like one of the other ones partitioned. Okay, that clue's finished. Okay, now for this 2 clue. This is interesting. It looks like it's going to involve some form of parity or just general meta snake logic. So first of all, we know the snake must go through one of these and one of these. I wonder then if it's possible to claim something about like if the snake can start here, for instance, right? Because then, first of all, we know that if it goes into here, like if it goes any further, it can't leave. But we know it needs to head up as well. Similarly, if we start by trying to have it like go up or something, we know once it reaches this point, it can't really... No, it can properly leave like this, but does this kind of structure have the right number of cells? We can see real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It does not. Okay. So once it goes up here, past like, I think this point, it also can't leave. Yeah, because it still runs the same problem. Okay, so I think what that's telling us then is if we say that this one, if we say this one isn't a mine, then we can see the snake can't actually go through both of these. So first of all, this one, oh, really? Does not have to be a mine. Okay. Restart. Oh, of course. This is under the assumption that it starts here. What I'm wondering then is if this is even possible, right? Because we know it can't go up any further, so it's going this way, then it has to form a group like this. Yeah, I think I'm just going to conjecture that it's probably not possible to get the correct number of cells. I know at least if we do something like this, we only get a maximum of 11, which is not enough. If we instead start with this kind of structure, then we actually run into more problems where we can't even properly make it work. So, okay, yeah, we know it can't start down there. There we go, that's the deduction we were looking for. Now then, we know for this one, now we know must be a mine because of this too. We can kind of run the same argument by it. Now let's consider what happens if it heads downwards, because we know this is only going to head in one direction in each of these. If it goes both, then we've run into a problem. We can't finish a partition. So we can split into two cases. One where it goes like that, one where it goes like that. If it does this, then we know it must continue upwards through here as well, right? And that gives us 2 endpoints. We can now check the parity on them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They do not work in this case. So we then know it must go like this. This also just generally gives us a structure like such. We know it must continue in here, so that one is not a mine. This one up here is. Okay. So now then, we know the snake can't go back here because then it gets trapped and it can't continue with the rest of them, so we know neither of these are mines. Okay, as for this snake, let's see, we need to fit a total of 8 cells into this, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If it goes up here. What I think this is telling us is that, yeah, we just know this one can't be the endpoint, right? Yep, it cannot. So that means that it must extend out in both directions. We get this. This is now our new endpoint. We can also see this one isn't one because it would create multiple endpoints. And actually, we're now at a point where we have 6 mines left, but we know that if we take either of these short routes, regardless if we take the long route for the other one, it will not have enough. The only way to fit 6 cells is to do that kind of structure. So there we go. Alright. And I guess for the last one, we can maybe do a partition duel, just because I'm kind of interested to see how the clues interact, rather. Like, I know I've already played some of these, but it's been a bit. Okay, so first of all, we know all of these zeros are non-mines. Something else we now know. First of all, this 2 is just finished. We can draw out this domino, finish up that 1 as well, and also assert that. Something else we know is that since one of these 2 cells is filled in, it can never go up here. If it goes up here, for instance, then it would require to at least go that far to connect up, which is not allowed by dual rules, so there we go. Okay. Something else we can kind of consider is we know that this one can never not be a mine, because then we get this kind of situation. Boom, group of 3, not allowed. So first of all, we know this one must be a mine. That tells us since this one only has 1 group and any domino can only go 2 squares out total, we know this one cannot be a mine either. There we go. So we can then consider, I guess, the 2 cases for this. One of them is it goes up here. That forces this one to go up as well. This one clue then has to have a domino like this, and lastly, it must go up there. The other case is this one goes here. What this then, I think, tells us is... I don't know how much it really does tell us, to be honest. We know that one of these 2 must be, or at least one of those 2 must be mine. It could be both, right? Yeah. So I guess we can kind of run through the other cases. This might get a bit much, but here we go. So if this one's filled in, I think importantly we can see this one's not a mine. Similarly, if we instead fill in only this one, then we can see it has to go upwards like such. For this 1 clue now, we can see it needs to go over like this because this 2 clues are already finished. We can still note that this one is not a mine. It's also not a mine the other one because we fit all of the mines in there. And lastly, purple case, where we do both of these. We still see this one must go over, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6th one there. Yep, okay, so we know this one is never a mine. I don't know if we can make the same assertion about the red one. Maybe we can. We know one of these mines must be over here. Yeah, actually we can, because then we know there must be one mine around this one mine around this two. So we actually know that it's going to at least involve this, which means this one's too far away. And you can see in every other case here, and I'll go and draw it to be more explicit. We know in every other case that this one up here also cannot be a mine because we have found every other mine's location. So there we go. Okay. So now we know yellow case is ruled out. It forces this one to be not a 1. So there we go. We can go ahead then and this one was blue and purple, I believe. Yep. Okay. We can go ahead and just get rid of that one from this register. There we go. Okay. We can just erase both of those as well. Alright, now we can consider, we know the blue case is also impossible, just because it forces this 1 to become a 2, so we know there must be a mine here. It also tells us there is not a mine up here. There we are. Okay. Here, we can just get rid of that real quick. So now then, we know that in this case, there cannot be mines in either of these, or for the red case, we know there cannot be mines in either of these because it's already finished. So we know that for this domino right here, since it also can't extend downwards, it must go here. So this one is always a mine, this one's always a non-mine. Okay, and I think the last thing now we need to look at is just if each of our cases can satisfy this 3 clue. We know the purple case can. We would just put a mine right here, be done. I don't think the red case can, though. No, it would need, yeah, it only allows one more group, which would have to be here, which already also breaks part of it, so we can then conclude that the purple case is correct. There we are. Now, it's not going to let me auto-click through it, because by partition rules it could go around there. There we go. Alright, I think that's going to conclude it for this partition video. I will see you guys around. Peace.